But what exactly was involved in the negotiation to bring the two Michaels home? How did the U.S. link the resolution of the charges against Meng to the release of the two Michaels? And where does this leave the relationship between Canada, China, and the U.S.? Let's find out. Joining me now, someone who was very instrumental in these negotiations, Canadian ambassador to the U.S., Kirsten Hillman. First of all, Ambassador, I know you've worked very tirelessly on this. You must be incredibly relieved and delighted, as are all Canadians, to see the two Michaels home. Give us a sense of how they are doing and their reaction to the news.
Oh, thank you, Evan, and I'm absolutely delighted to see them home. It has been a long journey to get here, and I couldn't be happier. Look, they're very relieved. They were delighted to be reunited with their families. They're very eager to catch up on all sorts of things. I mean, if you think about it, they missed COVID in Canada, right? There's so much that has happened in our society that they have not been privy to, and let alone in their personal and family lives. So it's great to have them back. Tell us exactly the moment when they found out that they were coming home. When did they know it's over, you were about to come home? When did that happen? They knew that something was happening a few hours before, but they only knew that they were going home really moments before they boarded the plane. But there was a lot of logistics. They were in two different locations. Right. So it seems like this. How long have these negotiations between the U.S., obviously Canada, and we can get to that in a minute, and China been going on for? So I think that just to say that there's sort of two things that happened simultaneously, or two things that came together in time. The first, of course, is the judicial negotiation of Madam Meng with the U.S. Department of Justice in relation to the charges that were against her in the United States court. And those were ongoing. And as those got closer to a resolution, what happened was that the Chinese government, I think, in having felt for over 1,000 days, as you said, incredible pressure, right? Incredible pressure from Canada, from our allies around the world that we had mobilized in regards to the situation of the Michaels and the call for their immediate release, including the United States. So all of our allies had been raising this publicly and privately over and over and over again for over 2 years. In the light of the progress that was being made with the hearing or the case for Ms. Meng in the United States, I think the Chinese government decided that, it was time to put this behind them and move on. Okay, but let's be clear. When the U.S. is about to resolve the charges against Meng, they're clearly talking to the Chinese about this. This is at the very highest levels. Did the United States make it a condition of the resolution of the charges of Meng Wanzhou that China, in return, must release the two Michaels on the same immediately? Absolutely not. The DPA and the resolution of the charges against Ms. Meng was a completely independent process, and it was proceeding as it did. So how were they linked? I'm just trying to figure this out. I know if the deferred prosecution agreement was independent, you get the deferred prosecution agreement happening in a court, you get the BC court, and literally Meng's released, and then hours later, they don't just appear. You got to get the planes, you got to get the logistics to get the two Michaels on a plane are enormously complex. They must have been linked in the negotiation. They were, as I say, as the resolution for Ms. Meng was heading towards success, and the parties to that discussion felt that they were heading towards success, the Chinese government made its decision. And its decision was that it was no longer, in its interest to continue holding the Michaels. And so they started the process in talking to our officials in Beijing about making arrangements to have the Michaels leave. Did China say the moment the charges, whatever happens, if the charges against Meng Wanzhou are resolved, we will release them that day? When did China convey that message to Canada? Yeah, I mean, there were the discussions happened over the course of a fairly a lengthy period of time. So I can't pinpoint the exact times, and I think sort of the logistics of it all are I'm not really able to say. but we knew, obviously, if far enough in advance to have the planes in place. And can I just say, I really would like to say this for Canadians. There are some incredibly talented consular officers in Beijing and here in Ottawa that were responsible for that very, incredible bringing together of these two processes. And they do a lot of work that's behind the scenes, and I'd just like to really give a shout out to them.
But you're absolutely right. Huge amounts of work going on behind the scenes there. But is it now clear that because of that China explicitly imprisoned the two Michaels as retaliation for Meng Wanzhou, that this was the most naked example of hostage diplomacy that the world is seeing right now? Is that now fair to say? Because it seems that China's implicitly, they're not even embarrassed by it.
Well, I mean, I think everyone is drawing the conclusions that the facts seem to demonstrate.
What does that mean for the future then in dealing with China? Who's the next two Michaels?
Well, what I would say about this situation, and I think this is really important to underline, is that Canada didn't ever back down from our commitment to international law. We never succumbed to the pressure that, unfortunately, the two Michaels were the victims of. We continued to proceed in court in Vancouver to resolve these matters according to international law and according to the commitments that we had made under our treaty, as did the United States in their case. And I think that that's the lesson to draw from this, is that the hardship was incredible for those two men, but we stood by our commitments, and we didn't succumb to the pressure that was intended to put on us.
Just last question, Ambassador. Will Canada and the U.S. now work together to try to make more robust treaties, like the Treaty Against Arbitrary Detention that both are signatories to stop China from using hostage diplomacy? What new measures against China will the U.S. and Canada work together on?
Well, I think it's important for us to reflect on this exactly, and to see what, as an international community, we got allies from around the world to stand up and call this out in our Declaration Against Arbitrary Detention. And I think thinking about what that means, and it's not specifically China focused. There are other countries that engage in tactics like this, and I think we have to think about what we can do from here to make sure it never happens again.
Other countries, but not other superpowers like that. Ambassador Hillman, I know you and your teams must be incredibly relieved. The country is relieved. Thanks for your work, and thanks for joining us this morning. Appreciate it.
Thanks, Evan.